This is awkward occurrence or awkward entertainment. Okay, I'm jumping right into this. There was a report released about Clinton police releasing the police report. Marcus, um, with the stepdad filed a police report. So that police report that was filed on December 21st is released. So let's get right into it. So Port Clinton police have released a police report made regarding when Harley Dilly went missing, and it includes new details about his life and what led to his disappearance. And this report was made out on December 21st, just after midnight, his father Marcus Dilly made. Now they're saying Marcus Dilly is not his real father. I don't know if he is or isn't, but he may not be since social media is saying he's not the real father. Now this is about the police checked one of Harley's friend's house, more than one. They went to Harley's friend's house and asked questions. Here what was told. One of those friends the police went to said he saw Harley after school on Friday. So after school on Friday, he saw Holly. So as that relate, the mom say she saw him that morning, and she insinuates in her Facebook post that he may have went over there that morning and didn't go to school. Now this boy says, let me continue. On Friday, he saw Harley. Harley knocked on his door, wanting to know if he could go to the Cavs game with him. He told Harley there were no more tickets. Harley was wearing a red coat with gray sweatpants and black tennis shoes. At the time, the report states. Harley's mother, Heather Dilly, said the last time she saw her son was Friday morning when he was trying to get out of going to school and stated he didn't feel good. She said she told him to get the F to school, and as far as she knew, he had left and went to school. And again, in the mom Facebook post, she insinuates he didn't go to school, that he immediately went over to that house. And I'm just showing you how the stories are different. According to the report, Marcus Dilly said Harley was mad because he had broken his phone and demanded they get him a new phone. He said Harley was told he would have to earn it. Marcus Dilly said there were other incidents where Harley wouldn't come home from school on a Friday and didn't return until the next morning or Saturday morning. He said he never filed reports in those incidents. He said he wanted to file a report in this situation because Harley had been gone too long and normally returned in the morning. He said nothing happened to make him think Harley was in danger and that he didn't have a history of being suicidal. And the report goes on after that to say Harley has ADHD and how he's a bright boy. Now, what I wanted to get into is what the mom said, that she saw Harley that morning. She spoke to him, had a conversation with him, told him to go to school, get the F to school. He said he was feeling sick. Then the friend, when the police spoke to the friend after he went missing, the friend said he saw Harley after school. And then you got the photo, which they say that photo was taken in between 6 and 7 a.m. That digital still image that's still going around, but ain't no video. Okay, police report 6 to 7 a.m. That digital still image was taken. But Harley, after school, went to his friend's house. So where is all the image and video of Harley moving around town from 6 to 7, well, from 6 a.m. to after 3 p.m.? Because it was after 3 p.m. when he went to his friend's house and asked could he go to the Cavs game. So after 3 p.m., you telling me he went and didn't go home, but he went up on a chimney. He went up on a chimney and got stuck. So the whole idea his mom is putting out there is, well, Harley didn't want to go to school, so Harley went across the street, got up there himself, and dumped his body and dumped himself in a 9 by 13-inch chimney. So now the details of this case are just changing. It's changing. The mom is The mom has said, I never saw Harley that day. I saw him. She never saw him. She spoke to him on the phone. That's what the mom said in the beginning. Now the mom says, I saw him. I told him to go to after school. He said he was feeling sick. Then he left to go to school. But her belief is he got stuck in a chimney that morning because he didn't want to go to school. Then friends say what the friend just said. Let me get to this photo. Okay. This photo is from Bridget Parker's YouTube page. She did a special on Harley a couple of days ago. Now she showed this photo. That's a 9 by 13 inch square. Now his shoe is about 13 inches long. You think a kid can fit down a hole that's the size of a 13-inch shoe? I mean, Shaq got bigger shoes than 13 inches, but you think 13 inches, you take a ruler and you draw a 13-inch marker on the ground outside with chalk. You think a kid, even 4'9", 100 pounds, could go down a 13-inch hole and somehow shimmy his way down to the middle where the second floor is? I'm not sure. 'Cause 9 by 13 is not very big. Okay, let's get back to the other photo. I forget what channel. This is Truth Reality. Either way, this is a older photo, a much newer photo of Harley from when he was a kid in those YouTube videos. Now you can see at his shoulders are broader than 13 inches. Like his shoulders from length inch to inch, point A to point B, has to be over 24 inches. Like over 2 feet wide shoulders. And that would tell me not to go down a 13-inch chimney. And as you can see, this photo is still much older than the ones we've been getting. It's older than this one. You see, this is a younger photo. That is a younger photo of Harley. And this is how he looked when he went missing. Like more advanced in age. More advanced in age. More advanced in height. Let me straighten this out. And let me get over to a video I want to see. Let's start with the mom. I guess. That in all of these events. That's one just reoccurring sentence. One reoccurring sentence in these events. It doesn't take an hour to find out everything. Okay, this is gonna be the mom saying she never saw him.
Police say 14-year-old Harley was last seen Friday, December 20th, between 6 and 7 a.m.
Now, he was last seen Friday between 6 and 7 a.m. Now, how long after did they find out he came to his friend's house Friday afternoon after 3 p.m. before they released that statement to the media? So on Friday, she didn't say what time, but on Friday she talked to him. But I don't know whose phone he was using. He had a phone. She didn't see him Friday. She talked to him on a live PD show. A&E did a live PD show. They featured Harley Dilly. Okay, now that's just her saying she never saw him. She talked to him. Then you got a police report saying, well, his phone was broken. He demanded a new phone. Like, if his phone was broken, how did she talk to him? Of course, a friend's phone. Like, you didn't see him, but you talked to him on Friday. I don't repeat because this is the grandfather. And this was during the time he was missing. And someone did a video about how he talked in past tense. I just noticed how he talked about social media, how social media is a problem somehow.
out for our family. You don't know how it's tearing us up. This could happen to anybody's child. Like the Reverend said, social media has done nothing but ruin a generation of children.
So social media has done nothing but ruin a generation of children. He's up there sobbing, giving the best performance he can, giving the best performance, sobbing. But social media is not the one that went down a chimney. You get what I'm saying?
It's tearing everybody apart, separating families and ruining everybody's life. My grandson.
If social media is tearing your family apart and ruining your life, then you need to get off social media. Now, don't go on Facebook. Don't post about what you're eating, this, that, the third. Don't go to those baby mama groups where they talk about the baby daddies, all that drama stuff. Don't do all that then. Don't go on social media. Go to your mama jokes groups and all that, or whatsoever.
Had issues, and he wasn't a perfect boy, but he was a good boy, and he loved his mother.
So he had issues. That's the past tense. He wasn't perfect. Past tense.
Again, all I can say is it could happen to anybody. Thank you so very much for coming out and supporting us at this time, because I don't know what we'd do without all of you.
Yeah. Y'all can go find his interview and get a lot of volume. Y'all can just see how he talking, his craziness. Is this the protest?
Good morning. I'm following the Harley Dilly case like many others. So I was checking to see about the toxicology report, and I came across that.
No, that's not the protest. But about the protest, 2 people were arrested, and they were putting an angel on the house that he was found at. They got arrested for trespassing. That's all that led to, or all that was. Yeah. That might not be a good copy. This is the protest outside that day. So I support PCP. I don't agree with the protests. More for show stuff. Let me fast forward through this. Dude with the cross. Anyway, you got controlled protests by God knows who. You can't trust everyone to know who set them protests up. You just can't trust everyone and everything you see on TV on who set them protests up and why they set them protests up. But again, let me get into the next one. Let me get into this next one. But again, Harley Dilly, the police report says he was mad about a phone. He yelled at them about getting him a new phone. Mom said he talked to him that morning when originally she said she didn't talk to him. That morning she told him to go to after school. He left the house. Apparently he must have went to school because he went to his friend's house after 3 o'clock after school and asked about going to the Cavs game. And apparently he must have left his friend's house to go chill inside a chimney because he got stuck in the chimney. So that will put the timeline. If school ends at 2:15, he went to his friend's house around 3 maybe. That will put it after 3 o'clock. So why was he not at his house after 3 o'clock? What made him after 3 o'clock go over to that chimney and try to get in that house? Now, how could a body? Hold on. How can a body fit down a 9 by 13 inch hole? Like, I know Bridget Parker believes a body can fit down there, but there's no way you take a 13-inch shoe and you try to fit somebody that's this. You try to fit him down there. Somebody in this advanced age, you try to fit them down that hole. That doesn't make sense. 9 by 13. That is a man's shoe. Ain't nobody getting in that hole. That is a man's shoe. All right. And if this is an accurate photo, you see how wide his shoulders are? I mean, he wouldn't even attempt to go down a 9 by 13 inch hole because he would not fit down a 9 by 13 inch hole. You wouldn't attempt something you know you're just too big for. Like, all those YouTube videos are just outdated. Are real outdated. Even in them YouTube videos, he couldn't fit down a hole the size of a 13-inch shoe. I know people were saying, well, he got crushed. The news haven't said he got crushed, but people are saying his dad crushed him in a garbage truck. So if his dad did crush him in a garbage truck, I can see how his body can get down that chimney. Being how tall he is now, how wide his shoulders are now. Even then, his shoulders were too wide to go down that hole if he was crushed. But I don't think the police would cover that up unless they're trying to find a criminal. Unless they're trying to find a murderer who did it, they would not say this is a homicide investigation. They would say this is an accident, just to not tip the person off who did it. But I mean, just going down a 9 by 13 inch hole, he would have not made it to that flue to push a coat out. That's all I'm saying. How did if he was murdered, why would the coat be outside the flue on the ground floor inside the house? Again, that don't make sense. Unless the police lying about that too, just to catch the murderer and not tip people off. Whatever the case may be, but even if somebody did try to hurt him and put him down there, they would know that the coat was not inside the house when they put the body down the chimney. The coat wasn't in the house. The coat was on him. It's very strange. It's very strange because stuff don't add up. Doesn't add up. They go to 9 by 13 inch. Okay. I know still more to come from this case. I'm gonna move on to, let me see. I'm moving on to something else. Let me see. Okay, this is gonna be about Paighton Houston. And of course, they found somebody in her case. They found somebody to blame it on in her case, if I can find his photo. So they do have a personal interest. And I'm not seeing his photo. Anyway, his name is Fredrick Hampton, an older black male. They're saying she left the bar with him.
Initially reported missing, we were told she was reportedly had left with two men from the tin roof. Is that still the belief at this point, that there was a second man there with her that night?
Well, when it first, the news first came out, there was no video, there was surveillance from Tin Roof. The two men, her leaving with two men, I guess came from people that were there who observed her in Tin Roof. So we don't really know, because if you think about it, if you're in a club, a crowded room, it's kind of hard to tell sometimes whether you're walking out the door with two people or whether that person is, so in terms of how many people she left with, we're not sure. But we do know that Fred Hampton is definitely involved.
Was he there?
I said they said they got a tip that Fred Hampton was involved. They don't say who the tip is from. I know somebody speculated. Whoever he was with turned him in.
Is that something that you can talk about? Was he one of these men that people been talking
They
about?
also said they had him in custody on late December on a Thursday or Friday. They had him in custody for kidnapping, but they couldn't hold him on kidnapping. Now, how do we have somebody in custody for kidnapping, but you can't hold him on kidnapping? But somehow you was able to arrest him on kidnapping, and I guess he was charged but released because they had no information. But how did he even get charged in the first place? And then there's an arrest warrant in this situation, and they don't even have him on video. They again, as she stated, listen, they don't have him on video. They don't have nothing on video of him. They say, well, they saw somebody that looked like him or that is him. The people at the club, I don't know who said it, but the friend said she left with two heavy-set gentlemen. That turned out to be a lie, because whatever camera footage the police had, they looked on it, and there wasn't no two black males. Now, how they know that this is the guy they're not saying? Besides saying the house Paighton was buried at belonged to people last name Hampton, so they put two and one together, where the last name owner of the house is Hampton. Then the dude who comes and visits this house, Fredrick Hampton, must have something to do with Paighton Houston body being in there. But now you go back to the bar with the black people. There's the story in the beginning, two heavyset male. There was never no heavyset male. They don't have a video of her leaving with nobody, leaving with a black male, leaving with nobody. They didn't pick this Fredrick Hampton out of a lineup and say that was him who left with Houston. Besides a body being buried behind a backyard belonging to somebody named Hampton, what evidence do you have that this was him that took the body and buried it? Because nobody killed her. It wasn't no strangulation. It wasn't murder. It's probably gonna come back as overdose or something. So I believe she left the bar with him, is what they're trying to say. They went somewhere and hung out. Wherever they went to hang out at, she died. He took her body back to that place and buried her. That's their story with no evidence. The only evidence they provide is somebody saying they saw him at the bar that night, which they don't have no evidence of that at all. I'm trying to see how they're going to prosecute him in this scripted case. How they're going to prosecute him.
There's witnesses that said that he was present that night.
Okay, present at Timberland.
He was present.
And there was witnesses that say he was present that night, but they don't know if that was him. They don't even know if that was two black fat dudes leaving with her. Now, how are we going to believe this witness? We really going to believe this witness? We couldn't believe the last witness, and that was a co-worker who gave two black heavy male. Come on. How you know that was him in a bar? Like, get real. Leaving with the white lady with her other white friends. Even though her other white friends didn't leave with her. Like, come on. Come on, y'all. Come on.
Beyond locating Mr. Hampton, what is the next step in this investigation?
Just continuously talking to people. We're still awaiting the
Give me 1 second. 1 second.
report from the coroner's office because her body had started decomposing. So we lost a lot of evidence that we could have been able to get had she been located earlier. Right now we're just kind of waiting on that report to see what they can glean from her remains. And the thing is, I think there was a question earlier about the family. She has a very strong and loving family. And I got to know Paighnton actually at her visitation, if you would, because while I was there, I was unable to go to the funeral. Danny Carr, D.A. Carr, and myself, we both attended visitation. and the pictures that were the video. She just, her face, her smile, she was just a spontaneous person that loved life, and that was what I gleaned from the video. But you know, the family has now just a partial bit of closure because they now have her remains. Now they still have to go through that emotional roller coaster with the court system, because even when and he will be apprehended, he will be held accountable.
I know he will be apprehended in this script. We know he will be. Somehow, we know.
For whatever his part in this. When Fredrick Hampton is found, that's going to take the family to a whole different emotional roller coaster. So you never really get closure. It helps that they have her remains, but they still have a long road to go. So we've got to keep that family lifted up in prayer and keep them strong.
And it's a lot on you guys too as you work through this case. I remember seeing the video when you were there with your umbrella in the rain. As we are live.
You're back?
Okay.
So you were just in the middle of talking about being out at that site when Paighton Houston's body was exhumed from.
Actually, the Birmingham officers had been directed to another area in the town that was not too far from work. Pinewood.
Give me 1 second. Now I'm looking for the other article on this. Now either way, I believe it's more than one person that helped bury the body. The way the police was talking, as if it's more than one person that helped bury the body.
To find answers to the many questions about this case and get some insight into Fredrick Hampton. The band authorities are looking for that charge of abuse.
Yeah, this is the thing. They already charged him. Man, how do you charge somebody without catching them? You get what I'm saying? How are you charged with something that they don't have no evidence of either? 50-year-old Fredrick Hampton, so 33-year-old Paighton Houston left the bar willingly with 50-year-old Fredrick Hampton and probably one other person. There's no video evidence of her leaving with Fredrick Hampton. The friends have been inconsistent in their statement, but the friends aren't involved in her disappearing at all. But some way, somehow, some reason they're telling lies. They can't get their story straight. 50-year-old Fredrick Hampton has been charged with abuse of a course of Class C felony, which carries a $60,000 bond. The charge in Hampton's case is connected to Houston's death investigation. He is not in custody, and deputies are actively looking for him. Yeah, they probably already got him. To be honest, they probably already got him somewhere, ready to say lights, camera, action. At 10:30 a.m., the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, we didn't see that press conference. I didn't talk about press conference.
The team of prosecutors in the Office of Jefferson County District Attorney Lenise Washington out of Bessemer handling this case. Lenise Washington joining us now live. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Let's talk about this suspect, Fredrick Hampton, if we could for a second. If investigators believe that he buried her body, then perhaps there may be some other information about him that you're able to tell us. What can you tell us about Fred Hampton's connection to Houston?
The only information that we are aware of in terms of the connection is that they were at the tin roof together at some point. And so we have different stories as to what took place at the point of her become missing. But in terms of any other connection prior to that, we don't have that information.
And I know you guys got to prosecute this, so you can't talk a lot about it. But if you can clear up this whole idea that Houston left with two men, and police say investigators are telling us that she appeared to leave willingly. How did they come to that conclusion? Any information you can share with us on that?
Basically, it was just witnesses. You know, whenever a crime occurs or there's a missing person, you do just like you do any other case. You start talking to witnesses and those people who were there at Tin Roof. More specifically, in this case, the people that she went there with. So you just speak with those people that are present, and that could give you some insight as to what was going on.
But as far as you know, in that Lakeview area, no video, anything that supports that evidence at this point?
Not really. Right now, we have witnesses that saw her leave with someone.
Okay, you have witnesses, so you have he say, she say witnesses that have been discredited, I mean, by the police department's own admission, and then there was no two men or her leaving with two men on the camera. And again, she just said they had no video to corroborate Fred Hampton and Paighton Houston leaving together. If you listen carefully, they have no video to corroborate nothing that they believe. So even though they say Fred Hampton is a sexual predator, but there was no reports of Paighton Houston being raped, no reports of rape, no reports of being strangled, none of that. They're saying she did leave willingly. She left willingly in this case. But there's no reports or no camera footage of her leaving. My point is, there's no camera footage of her leaving with Fredrick Hampton. Even though Fredrick is their guy, there's no credible evidence to say he's the guy.
And we know that she went with someone.
Yes. Denise, judging by what her family has posted on social media, especially her...
Well, you know she went with someone because her body ended up buried in a backyard belonging to an old lady whose last name is Hampton on the lease. So you think Fred Hampton did it because he's a predator who didn't register his new address. But somehow you know that's his address. Even though he didn't register that address. Somehow you figure out he's been hanging around there. So they're not saying, well, somebody saw him bury the body, or somebody saw him and somebody else burying the body. They're not saying that. Like, they're really not even saying how they know this person is telling the truth when they say they saw Fredrick Hampton. He can be innocent in all this. Just because the name on the house is Hampton and the body was buried back there doesn't mean he did it. And just because they saw a black man with her, which they don't know what kind of black man it was, they don't know, doesn't mean it was him.
Mother, they're really having a hard time trying to get to the bottom of what happened to Houston. Can you give them some type of assurance at this point that you guys are doing everything you can to get this case solved?
Oh yeah, there's a collaboration of, it started out in the Birmingham division because that's where she was missing from where Tin Roof was. From that point, her body was found in the Bessemer Cutoff division. So you had Birmingham PD working, you had Jefferson County Sheriff's Office that are handling the case now. You had the Metropolitan Area Crime Center, MAC Center, that was a resource as well. So you have a number of people, and you had both district attorneys.
But remember on that same day they found the body, that same day or the day before, they were looking in another area. And they reopened that street. Then they came to this house. Now here's my thing. How the first day did you not find the body? And you ended up moving to this house. So how was your tip so incorrect that you searched the wrong area the first time? Then you ended up the next morning at this house. And I don't get it. Like, if you know it's Fredrick Hampton, and you know Fredrick Hampton did it, even before you found the body, you know it was Fredrick Hampton. You knew to go to the Hampton and back of the Hampton house. But before you went in back of the Hampton house, you were searching another area. Like, how did come on, that's confusing as freak. Why did y'all search that first area if you already knew she was in the backyard of that house?
there at the time that her body was exhumed from that shallow grave.
So
That makes me think maybe y'all don't know what y'all talking about when y'all claim Fredrick Hampton is a suspect. And you can't charge a guy you haven't caught with anything you don't have any evidence on. He's maybe a wanted suspect. He's a suspect, but you cannot charge him. Like, you don't even have him in booking to charge him with anything.
a lot of tips we hear is what led to her body's discovery as we look forward now. What's important for those tips? Are those important for your prosecution as well?
They are important. Those tips are what led the officers to have an interested person to speak with. And from that interested person, then that's how the body was located.
All right.
So they got some tips. It led to an interesting person to speak to. So they spoke to one person with a tip. Then that led to another person with a tip. Then that led to the body. And that somehow leads to Fredrick Hampton. But there's no evidence of Fredrick Hampton being at the bar besides he say, she say. I mean, the co-workers say they saw two black heavyset male. That doesn't add up. Let's keep going. It still doesn't make sense. Makes sense, but doesn't make sense.
Tips from Crime Stoppers. And I want to just impress upon the community, please, if you have information regarding this case, please call Crime Stoppers, area code 205-25.
Okay, yeah, they got all the information they need regarding this case. They really do. They just play people for dum-dums, and they release inaccurate information. They really do. Let me find one thing. What's one thing? Again, though, they're looking for Fredrick Hampton. He's supposedly the one she was hanging out with after they left the club. Then she somehow had a reaction to something and passed away. So after she passed away, he took her body back to that residence and buried her. It's the picture they're trying to paint. Let's get into something else. No. Now this DA district attorney, she mentioned something about social media. That's what I'm trying to find. She made a mention of social media. Let me see if any one of these is. Well, either way, if you look for the report, the DA mentioned people talking about the case on social media. More the same with everything else, with these other cases that keep talking about social media. They just love talking about social media for whatever reason it may be. But no, I cannot find it right now. Okay. Media, downloads, screenshots. Okay, this is a report. And I'm going to end this out here because I ain't going to take up too much more time. So, in Paighton Houston case, let's read this out. The cause of the manner of Paighton Houston deaths have not been determined, says the chief. What the chief would say, or the attorney would say, is there's been no physical trauma to Paighton Houston's body, and that led to her death. No physical trauma. The office received evidence that after her disappearance, Houston died. After her disappearance, Houston died the next day. Okay, Houston died the next day. The office received evidence that after her disappearance, The office received evidence that after her disappearance, that Houston died the next day. There was no physical trauma. So she died at the house on McLean Street in Brighton, and that after she died, she was allegedly disposed of in a criminal manner by Hampton at the location where she was later discovered. So they're saying she died the next day. She was hanging out all night with these guys, or whatever the case may be. I don't know. They can't get them for kidnapping. They would have said it was kidnapping. But the next day she was still hanging out with these guys. She died the next day. That same day, Hampton drove her body to that backyard where his people stayed and buried her. Like the smartest idea he can come up with was go to the backyard of people he know and bury the body. He didn't go to no unknown field somewhere and bury the body. He buried it in the backyard that he's supposedly allegedly known to hang out at. So that's what they want us to believe. That's what they want us to believe. So that night she was alive. That night she was hanging with these guys. They don't say if they kidnapped her, they held her against her will. They say she left willingly. Now they may go back to the text messages and say the text messages refer to her being kidnapped. But if you died the next day, I mean, maybe you was hanging out doing whatever you was doing. Then he took your body to somewhere else and buried you. That's very odd for them to say that, though. You can clearly read it. There was no evidence of any force in her leaving the bar. No evidence. Unless they're going to say they roofied her. But they're not saying was she talking to them. They don't even have these people on video. What am I talking about? They have none of these people on video at all with her. They have no evidence. But they're saying the next day she left. Okay. And to the Harley Dilly case, I know I'm all over the place. Washington said there are people who have paid a lot of money and have received a great deal of training to be competent and to carry out cases in a manner which they should be handled lawfully and tactfully. Now, this is a district attorney in the Harley Dilly case talking about social media. Washington says social media is not a great place to conduct investigations or court. People are naturally inquisitive, but we need people who have taken an oath and have a commitment to justice to make sure it's balanced, she explained. Washington says she believes in the investigators who are following every lead. Well, she believes investigators are following every lead possible. Her main concern is this is not Harley Dilly. Is this Harley Dilly? Okay, this is not Harley Dilly. This is the woman in Paighton Houston case. My bad. Paighton Houston. Her main concern is for the family of Paighton Houston. I want closure for this family, and this is important, she said. We had too many of our young ladies, our babies, and our teenagers going missing. Okay. So she's saying cases shouldn't be tried in social media and public court opinions, this, that, and third. Okay, that connects to the Chris Watts case. That connects to the Hottie Bazaar case. That connects to the Kevin Bacon case. And it's going to keep connecting to these national TV cases. All right? All right. And it connects to the Harley Dilly case because the mom is always talking about social media. The mom never stops talking about social media. I don't even know. Do I have her statement on my profile? I know I'm rambling on, but I'm trying to get all this done. Do I have a screenshot from the mom? No, okay. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, everybody. This has been Awkward Occurrence for Awkward Entertainment. So let's recap. Harley Dilly, police report release. The mom is saying she saw him, and she changed her story again to she saw him when she said she didn't. The stepdad saying they had an argument because he wanted a new phone. People are saying she was dining Friday night, and she got a call from the school Friday morning, or didn't check the voicemail. Either way, it's more strange stuff coming out in the Dilly case. He couldn't fit down a 9 by 13 hole, 13-inch hole. Take a 13-inch shoe and you try to fit an older teenager down that. It doesn't happen. And he wouldn't have made it down that chimney. His feet would have stuck out. Paighton Houston, they're looking for Fredrick Hampton. They don't know how it's Fredrick Hampton. They're saying tips, and people say, I saw him. It's leading them to Fredrick Hampton. That and the back of the house, or the house belongs to somebody named Hampton. But then again, they don't have no evidence, video evidence, it was him leaving with her. Even if he is caught, he's only facing a felony charge of getting rid of a body. No evidence of her being forced out of nowhere. Again, they have no video or nothing. This has been Awkward Occurrence, Awkward Entertainment. And let me finish this out with my picture of the day. I know I applied 5 photos. Anyway, let's get up out of here, y'all. Awkward Occurrence, Awkward Entertainment. I'll see y'all in the next video.